Okay. Greetings to you all, the New Sudan Students Front. Greetings to Chair Radi, Mawahib Ismail Al-Jundi. Today I'm going to brief you about the situation. Actually, I'm going to answer the questions sent to me by your Chair Lady, to brief you about the situation, the current situation in Sudan, the latest unrest in Nuba Mountains and Blue Nile, and the root causes of the problem. In fact, there are chaos and instability in the whole country. But let us start with the latest unrest, latest incidents in Lagawa and Wadalmahi of Blue Nile. The case of Lagawa is part of the strategy of the government to displace the indigenous people and replace them with other groups of foreigners or loyal ethnicities. This is what happened in Lagawa. Because on October 13, there are some Masriya PDF, Popular Defense Forces, in collaboration with the Rapid Support Forces of General Himeti. They attacked the unarmed civilians of Lagawa town without provocation. SAF garrison was there in the town, but SAF, Sudan Armed Forces, did not intervene to protect the civilians. So the Rapid Support Force, the PDF, managed to displace the whole population of Nuba population in Lagawa town. Most of them crossed into SPLA liberated areas. They went to as far as Tima, Tabak, Lagawa, and Tulusi. Kamda and Tulusi. But the majority also took refuge in the Sudan Armed Forces garrison in Lagawa itself. They asked for protection, they stayed in the garrison. The following day, the commander of the garrison brought buses and lorries and tried to force the displaced Nuba to travel to Al Ubaid or Kadugli or Dalim. So people were forced to leave. The displaced went to Kadugli, they went to Dalim and Lagawa. So this is why I said SAF, Sudan Armed Forces, is accomplished with the Masriya PDF and the Rapid Support Forces. They are implementing the policy of displacement of the indigenous Nuba, sending them away, then they replace them with the loyal Masriya tribe, so that Lagawa becomes a Masriya town. So this is one of the reasons why they attack and they occupy the town and they replace it. In Blue Nile, it is somewhat different. There are clashes between the indigenous Fun tribes with the African Hausa tribe, and the cause is different. It is about chieftaincy right and also land ownership right. That was the incident of Wadalmahi in Blue Nile. So those were very unfortunate and also bad clashes. But when you go back and look into it, you find that both tribes were armed by Sudan Armed Forces before as part of counterinsurgency tactics against the SPLA. So those Punj tribes and the Hausa tribes are using the government armament. But the government has incited the two tribes against each other. But the whole problem is about chieftaincy and land ownership. And this is connected to land ownership right, because you cannot have the paramount chief while you don't own the land. The land belongs to the Funj nationality, to the Funj tribes. The Hausa are living there and they have the land use right, not land ownership right. So you can have some chiefs at lower level to settle petty disputes, petty crimes, and other things. This is the Hausa. But they cannot have the right to the paramount chieftaincy, because the paramount chieftaincy goes or belongs to the landowners. Without preventing or depriving the Hausa from using the land for living. So we have to differentiate between two things. Land ownership, according to SPLA policy, land belongs to the tribes. But any displaced or anybody who came from a different area, he can have the right to use the land, but not to own the land. So if they understood this point, there would have been no reason or no cause for fighting between the two tribes. So this is the whole situation, but generally it is Khartoum policy of displacement of the indigenous people and replace them with other groups of either foreigners like in Darfur or loyal ethnicities in Lagawa, and also inciting war and fighting between the indigenous or the African tribes like in the Mazin, so that they use the land for and distribute this land to other investors from the north and even from foreign countries. The government accusation that SPLA is involved in these disputes is false. It is not true. If you take Lagawa, it is a government-controlled town in Nuba Mountains. SPLA was not there when the Misriya and the PDF Rapid Support Force attacked the indigenous Nuba. Also in Wad al-Mahi, it is far away from the SPLM-controlled areas. It is north of the Mazin. And SPLA has nothing to do with this. And the proof is that since 2019, the Popular Defense Forces, Rapid Support Forces, the Mujahideen, the Janjaweed, and others are aggressing, are committing atrocities against the indigenous people, Nuba and Port Sudan, as places as far as Port Sudan at the Red Sea, in Kassala, and Gadarif, and Halfa, in eastern Sudan. Also, they attacked the Nuba in Gitana. Gitana is just south of Khartoum, between Kosti and Khartoum. They have attacked them. without any provocation, without any reason, just because of racism and hatred and so on. And how you go to Darfur. In Darfur, you remember, since 2019, more than 100 incidents of aggression. In some places, they managed to kill more than 200 of the indigenous people. In Fata Barno, in Jabal Moon, Krenik, Gereda, Nyertati, and so on, so forth. So they are killing these people because the government is not neutral. The government is taking the side and supporting and arming the tribes. In the beginning, they claim that these tribes are armed against the insurgency, against the SPLA forces. But practically, they have armed the Arab tribes, and the Arab tribes used these armaments against their neighbors from the African tribes, whether in Nuba Mountain, in Darfur, in Blue Nile. You see, even before SPLA appeared in their places. So it is not counterinsurgency, but it is racism and plan to occupy the land of the indigenous people using the pretext of defense against SPLA forces. So this is about the situation, and especially the latest arrest in Nuba Mountain, Blue Nile, and all over Sudan. The aggression of the government is going on. Regarding the second point, which is talking about the current situation in Khartoum and why the civilians could not reach consensus among themselves, that there are differences between the civilians themselves and the military junta, especially the generals, said they are not going to hand over power before the civilians could reach a consensus or agreement. So we find that there are differences between the civilians, like FFC Central Bureau on one side, the original FFC. There are also differences between FFC Central Bureau and the resistance committees, the youth and the street, and there are differences between the traditional sectarian political parties and the Communist Party and so on. So there are differences. They could not agree. They could not reach any consensus among themselves. Again, you see that there are differences between the military and FFC Central Bureau. Central Bureau is very close to the military. Actually, FFC Central Bureau and the military, they all belong to the Old Sudan. They all share the same vision of the Old Sudan, of the constants of Arabism and Islam. Both of them are working and struggling very hard to block change and reform. They don't want a fundamental change. They are just for nominal reforms that cannot address the root causes of the problem. This is why they are avoiding. So you find that the final analysis, there is no basic contradiction between FFC Central Bureau, the Ummah Party, DUP, and the Arab Bassist and Sudan Congress Party, Sudan Congress Party. This is one group, FFC Central Bureau. They have no basic contradiction with the military junta. But they are in agreement to go back to pre-October 25th, October 25th partnership between the civilians and the military. The only obstacle is the insistence and the demand of the military to be pardoned and exempted from accountability, legal measures for the crimes they have committed of war crimes, genocide, ethnic cleansing, and also crimes after the deposal of Bashir, like the massacre in front of the general headquarters of the army, killing of the demonstrators and the people who took to the street against the military coup. So now the military are asking FFC to pardon them and to give them some kind of protection against legal measures and legal accountability. FFC may be ready, look like ready to pardon the military so that they accept to hand over power to them so that they be able to form a government. But FFC is reluctant and could not offer the pardon to the military because they are fearing the reaction of the resistance committees, the reaction of the streets, the reaction of the youth, the reaction of the women who always take to the street against any compromise with the military. The youth, the resistance committees, and women are asking the army to go back to the barracks. They don't want the army to remain in power. They have to go back to the barracks, hand over the power to the civilians, and the civilians to form the government and run the country at the interim period. But the only obstacle now is the issue of pardon and protection against. So this is where the two parties are. This is why it took more than 1 year, and the civilians and the military could not agree. The civilian cannot reach consensus or agreement. Okay. There is another question placed by you, and it is also important. Why Sudan is not stable? Why this chaos, instability, civil wars, uprisings, revolutions, and economic problems, economic deterioration, killings, and so on? Why? Why our country is facing these problems? We find this takes us to the root causes of the problem of Sudan. And if we want to talk about the root causes of the problem of Sudan, we find that identity crisis is central in this question. Problem of Sudan is all about identity crisis. Why we say this? Because when the British departed in 1956, The colonial administrators were replaced by local elites who identified as Arabs. Then they imposed their Arab identity on the state, that Sudan is an Arab Islamic state since 1956. Then they wanted to generalize this false identity to the rest of the Sudanese. But the African majority of Sudan refused to recognize this false Arab identity. The first to resist are South Sudanese, Southern Sudanese, who refused. The elites used force, violence, oppression, then led to civil war for 50 years until South Sudan have managed to secede, to get independence in 2011. Immediately after that, a new South emerged that extends from Blue Nile in the east at the border with Ethiopia, through Nuba Mountains, Abyei, and Darfur at the border of Central Africa, Chad, and Libya. Why a new South emerged? Because the elites in Khartoum, the ruling elites in Khartoum, are insisting to maintain this coercive unity on the basis of monolithic, exclusive Arab culture and Islam, where there is no place for the other who doesn't belong to this Arab Islamic identity. This is, we mean by the other is the marginalized, the excluded Sudanese Africans. So the other in Sudan, the marginalized, the Africans are left with only two options, only two options. Either you accept a slave, master-slave relation, or inferiority status. So you have to accept master-slave relation or inferiority status. Otherwise, you will be exterminated. This explains why there is ethnic cleansing, killing on identity, war crimes, and genocide in Darfur, in Nuba Mountain, and Blue Nile, against the Africans. So it is mainly identity crisis. But in order to protect this Arab Islamic state, this corrupt system, then all the successive governments used violence, used the armed forces, other regular armed forces, to impose and protect this corrupt and racist system they put in place. So this is why the civil war is going on, instability, lack of development and progress, then that big economic crisis where the Sudanese pound has lost its value against the dollar, unemployment, poverty, and wretchedness for all the Sudanese. This because of these corrupt policies they put in place, and this is because the junta and the elites in the north, from the far left to the far right, are against fundamental change. They don't want to address the root causes of the problem. So this is why there is instability, wars, economic crisis, economic deterioration, and so on. Then, why the elites, the ruling elites, the Arab elites, are resisting change? Because they want to maintain their privileges, political, economic, and social privileges in Sudan. So they are resisting change. They went as far as politicization of religion, declaration of jihad and other things, and armament of all the Arab tribes against the Africans. So this is now the situation, and this explains why there is no stability. Also because the elites, they don't believe in peaceful settlement of the conflict in Sudan. They only believe in military victory. They are dreaming of crushing SPLA by force, crushing all the resistance in the marginalized and the peripheries by force. So this is why we could not reach peace, we could not sign peace, and also there is no stability in the country. So according to the last question, what is the way out and what is the vision of SPLM, SPLA for the solution to the problem of Sudan and to this crisis? In fact, SPLM vision is very clear, that the only way out is to build a secular, democratic, decentralized Sudan that accommodates all. In order to achieve this secular, democratic, decentralized Sudan, we have to address the root causes of the problem. Then, if the elites in Khartoum are serious, then we have, first of all, to go for separation of religion and state constitutionally. Constitutional separation of religion and state, which amounts to secularism. The second thing is to address the identity problem by separation of cultural, ethnic, and regional identities from the state. So the decentralization is the remedy to this problem of centralized state and control over power and everything in Khartoum and Sudan. The third thing is security sector reform. Why we call for security sector reform? Because SAF and other regular forces are not neutral. SAF is protecting one section of the Sudanese society against the other section, protecting the Arabs against the Africans. All their wars are conducted in the peripheries, in the Arab, in the African regions. South Sudan until seceded, Nova Mountain region, Blue Nile, the Bija, Darfur. We never heard an Antonov bombed Shandi or Madani or Dongola or something like this. All their wars, whether aerial bombardment, artillery shelling, ground attacks, genocide, and other things are conducted in Kadugli, Juba, Fashir, Niala, Damazin, and those places. So Sudan Army is and not neutral. It is protecting one section against the other. Sudan army is partisan army. All its officers, from the rank of second lieutenant to the general, are Islamists. They are the cadres of the National Islamic Front in Sudan. They are defending Islamic State rulers. They are defending the rulers, Islamic rulers, against the others. Even against the Muslims, like Darfur is 100% Muslims. But it shows that this SAF is racist also, Russia. SAF is protecting actually totalitarian regimes. Since the time of Aboud, then General Aboud, General Nemeri, and General Bashir, and now General Burhan, they are protecting these totalitarian and corrupt regimes against the demands and against the Sudanese people. The army is involved in politics and they have ruled Sudan for 56 years out of 66 years of independence. In these 56 years, they managed to ruin and destroy the country because of corruption, because of... The army is involved in the economy and economic activities. So Sudan Armed Forces is now controlling 82% of the revenue, the national revenue of Sudan. And they are sharing the rest of the population on the remaining 18%. They are getting their salaries from the Ministry of Finance on the account of the whole population. So we find that there is no way to achieve peace, stability, development, and progress without reforming and changing Sudan Armed Forces. The Sudan Armed Forces must reflect the diversity of Sudan if we want stability in this country and we want peace. So on SPLA, we believe in peaceful settlement to the conflict if the center is ready for that. Otherwise, we will continue to defend our people, our marginalized and excluded people in Nuba Mountain, Blue Nile, and other places if they are ready for to adopt the SPLM vision. That is why our negotiation team went to Juba, Peace Forum, and they managed to sign the Declaration of Principle in March 2021. And we think that the Declaration of Principle was good. It would have addressed the root causes of the problem. But the government backtracked. Their negotiation team pulled out of the table since June 2021 because they are not ready for just and lasting peace. They are not ready to repeal and abrogate the Sharia laws. Yes, General Burhan signed the Declaration of Principle, separation of religion and state, separation of cultural, ethnic, and regional identities from the state. But they didn't mean that they want this agreement to remain on paper, but not implemented. So our negotiation team managed to check and discover that they are not serious and they don't mean to implement what they have signed. So this is why they went back and they conducted a coup d'etat, and even worse than that, General Burhan declared a state of emergency. In the eyes of SPLA, state of emergency is or amounts to declaration of war, because lifting the state of emergency means suspension of the constitution, suspension of all the laws, and give the army and the other regular forces impunity to kill, to destroy, to fight, to do anything in the country. So this is where we are now, and now you can see the difference between the position of the SPLM and the position of the ruling elites in Khartoum, whether they are civilians or whether they are in the military. So I hope that I managed to succeed to answer your questions. Thank you very much for listening.